My name is Vivian Cross. 8 years ago, my husband left me, right after the gala celebrating the charity I built for my 24-year-old assistant. I was pregnant with triplets he didn't even know about, and I disappeared. I didn't lose everything. I started over, from zero, in a rundown cabin deep in the Oregon woods where no one knew my name. And there, I didn't just rebuild my life. I created a community for women who had shattered like I had. Before I share the rest of my story, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever survived something that should have broken you. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next. The crystal chandelier above me caught the Miami sunset through the Perez Museum's floor-to-ceiling windows, scattering rainbows across 500 guests in their finest. I smoothed my emerald gown, Darren's favorite color on me, and stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for supporting One Light Foundation, I began, my voice steady despite the flutter in my stomach. 5 years ago, we started with a simple belief that every person deserves a chance to rebuild. I found Darren in the crowd, expecting his encouraging smile. Instead, I saw his hand resting on the small of Jolie Tran's back, my 24-year-old assistant. His thumb traced small circles on her spine, the same gesture he'd used to calm me before our wedding. The words on my teleprompter blurred. I gripped the podium harder. We've helped over 3,000 families find stable housing, I continued, forcing my eyes away from them. Because home isn't just walls and a roof, it's where we feel safe enough to become who we're meant to be. Applause thundered through the room. I smiled, bowed, floated through the rest of the evening like a ghost at my own party. Darren appeared at my elbow between the silent auction and dessert, playing the perfect husband. His cologne, Tom Ford, the one I'd bought him last Christmas, made my stomach turn. The valet brought our Tesla around at 11. Darren's fingers drummed against the steering wheel as we glided through Biscayne Boulevard's late-night traffic. I watched the city lights blur past, pressing my palm against my abdomen where a secret fluttered. Vivian, his voice cracked on my name. I closed my eyes. Just drive. We need to talk. At home. I couldn't do this in a car, not trapped. Our Coral Gables mansion loomed white in the darkness, all clean lines and glass. Darren's vision of modern perfection. I kicked off my heels in the foyer, their clatter echoing off marble floors. I'm in love with Jolie. The words hung between us like a blade. I turned slowly, studying the man I'd shared 12 years with. His designer stubble, the nervous twitch in his jaw, those green eyes that once made me feel like the only woman in the world. How long? 6 months. He had the decency to look away. I didn't mean for it to happen. She gets me, Viv. The real me, not the version you keep trying to improve. I laughed, sharp, bitter. The version I keep trying to improve? You mean the one who remembers your mother's birthday? Who built a foundation in your company's name to fix your image after the data breach? See, this is what I mean. Everything with you is a project, a problem to solve. He loosened his tie with jerky movements. Jolie doesn't try to fix me. Jolie is a child. She's an adult who knows what she wants. And she wants me. He squared his shoulders. I'm filing for divorce. My lawyers will be generous. You'll keep the foundation, get a good settlement. But I can't pretend anymore. The room tilted. I gripped the back of the Italian leather sofa we'd chosen together in Milan. Get out! Viv, get out! The scream tore from somewhere deep, primal. Take your things and get out of my house. He left with a duffel bag and his laptop. I stood in our bedroom, my bedroom now, staring at the California king bed where we'd tried so hard to conceive, where I'd finally succeeded without telling him, wanting to surprise him at just the right moment. I drove through the night, tears blurring the interstate signs. By dawn, I was pulling into my mother's Savannah driveway, the Spanish moss on her oak trees swaying like ghosts in the morning breeze. Vivian? Mom opened the door in her silk robe, her face creasing with concern. Sweetheart, what? The world went sideways. I felt myself falling, heard her scream my name, then nothing but black. The antiseptic smell hit me first, then the beeping, steady, insistent. I opened my eyes to find Mom clutching my hand, her perfect manicure chipped. Oh, thank God. She squeezed tighter. You scared me to death. What happened? You fainted in my foyer, hit your head on the umbrella stand. She smoothed my hair back. Vivian, why didn't you tell me? Before I could ask what she meant, a doctor entered. Young, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Mrs. Cross, glad to see you're awake. I'm Dr. Martinez. She pulled up a chair. You gave us quite a scare. Dehydration, exhaustion, low blood pressure, not uncommon in your condition. My condition? Dr. Martinez glanced at Mom, then back to me. Your pregnancy. You're about 8 weeks along. She paused, studying her tablet. With triplets. The beeping accelerated. That's impossible. The ultrasound last month showed one. Multiple gestations sometimes aren't visible early on. But we can clearly see 3 distinct heartbeats now. She turned the tablet toward me. 3 tiny flutters on the screen. 3 lives growing inside me while my world crumbled. Mom's voice came from far away. Vivian, given the circumstances, no one would blame you if you considered... No. The word came out fierce, protective. These are my babies. Sweetheart, you just left Darren. You're 36. Triplets alone would be challenging, but as a single mother, I touched my stomach, remembering the twins I'd lost 5 years ago. How Darren had grown distant afterward, buried himself in work while I grieved alone. These 3 weren't just babies. They were my redemption. I'm keeping them. Mom pursed her lips. And Darren? Doesn't know. Won't know. I met her disapproving gaze. He chose Jolie. He chose to leave. These children deserve better than a father who views commitment as optional. Vivian Elizabeth Cross, you cannot simply disappear with that man's children. Watch me. She argued for 3 days. I spent them researching, planning, liquidating what I could without triggering questions. My one light salary, savings from before marriage, jewelry I could sell, it would be enough to start over. Somewhere far from Miami's glossy surface and shallow promises, I found Ashport, Oregon, on a Tuesday night. Population 8,000, nestled between mountains and sea. The Craigslist posting showed a weathered cabin for rent. Needs work, but solid bones. Like me. You're really doing this, Mom said, watching me pack her guest room. I survived building a foundation from nothing. I can survive this. Running away won't solve anything. I folded my last sweater. Cashmere. Another life. I'm not running away. I'm running towards something. I just don't know what yet. She drove me to the airport, silence heavy between us. At security, she grabbed my shoulders. Call when you land. Call every day. Her voice broke. I don't agree with this, but you're my daughter. I'll wire money if you need it. I won't. I hugged her hard, memorizing her white shoulder's perfume. But thank you. The flight to Portland took 6 hours. I spent them with my hand on my stomach, whispering to 3 heartbeats I couldn't feel yet. I don't know how to be your mom, I admitted to the window seat. I had plans. Nursery colors, private schools, trust funds. None of that matters now. But I promise you this. You will be loved. Fiercely. Completely. Even if I have to rebuild the whole world to keep you safe. The plane descended through clouds, revealing green mountains that looked nothing like Miami's flat paradise. Good. I needed different. I needed earth under my feet instead of marble, rain instead of artificial waterfalls, truth instead of whatever Darren and I had been pretending to have. My phone buzzed with 17 missed calls from Darren. I powered it off, bought a new one at the airport with a new number. Vivian Cross, philanthropist and wife, stayed on that plane. The woman who landed in Portland had no name yet, no history. Just 3 heartbeats and a fierce determination to begin again. The cabin squatted at the end of a dirt road, backed against Douglas firs so tall they seemed to pierce the Oregon clouds. Rain drummed on my rental car's roof as I stared at what $800 a month bought in Ashport. Peeling green paint, a porch that listed left, windows clouded with age. It's perfect, I told the landlord, a gruff woman named Ruth who wore flannel-like armor. She squinted at me. Designer jeans, Miami manicure already chipping. You sure about this, honey? The heating's temperamental, and the nearest neighbor's a mile down. I'm sure. Inside smelled like cedar and neglect. The living room held a stone fireplace, a couch that had seen better decades, and shadows. But the bones were good. Post and beam construction, solid floors under the dust. Through the kitchen window, mountains disappeared into mist. I spent the first week learning the cabin's moods. The hot water took 90 seconds to arrive. The third step creaked like a ghost. Deer appeared at dawn, grazing in the meadow where cell service died. At night, silence pressed against the windows. No sirens, no parties, no Darren coming home at 2 a.m. smelling like another woman's perfume. Loneliness hit on day 8. I sat on the tilting porch, watching rain turn the dirt road to mud, and sobbed until my ribs ached. 12 years erased. A future rewritten. 3 lives depending on someone who couldn't even start the temperamental wood stove without smoking herself out. That's when I began writing. Not the polished press releases I'd crafted for One Light, but raw words bleeding onto my laptop screen. I called the blog Ashes to Home. Anonymous thoughts from a woman learning to breathe again. The first post went live at 3 a.m., when pregnancy insomnia and grief made sleep impossible. They tell you starting over is brave. They don't mention it's also buying generic peanut butter and wondering if you've made the worst mistake of your life. They don't mention the muscle memory of reaching for someone who chose elsewhere. Within a week, comments trickled in. Women who'd been left, who'd lost themselves in marriages that looked perfect from the outside. Their stories made me feel less alone in my rain-soaked hideaway. The Ashport General Store became my window to humanity. Every Tuesday, I'd brave the 20-minute drive for supplies. The cashier, Dottie, had cotton candy hair and a gift for gossip. "You're the new girl in the Hendricks cabin," she announced my third visit, not asking. "City girl, by the look of those boots." "Guilty." I placed prenatal vitamins on the counter, daring her to comment. Her eyes softened. "Well, honey, this town's good for healing. You'll see." Week 3, I met them, my unexpected sisters. It started with Ellie, who lived 2 miles up the mountain. She appeared on my porch with sourdough starter and tired eyes. "Dottie mentioned a newcomer," she said. "Thought you might like some real bread. Store stuff's terrible." I invited her in for tea. 2 hours later, we were both crying over the kitchen table. Her story: husband left her for his CrossFit trainer, took the house, left her with debt and their daughter. "I came here to disappear," she admitted. "Been 2 years. Still working on the reappearing part." She brought Samira the next week, a software engineer who'd fled Seattle and a husband whose love came with bruises. Then Gina joined us, young widow whose husband's motorcycle accident left her with grief and guilty relief that his drinking couldn't hurt anymore. We met Thursdays. No agenda, just women who understood that sometimes the bravest thing was getting out of bed. I made tea, peppermint, for my morning sickness. They pretended not to notice when I rushed to the bathroom. "You're pregnant," Samira said one evening, matter of fact. "How far?" 14 weeks. I pressed my palms against the small bump hidden under oversized flannel. "With triplets." The silence stretched. Then Gina laughed. Not cruel, but surprised. "Damn, girl, you don't do anything halfway." That night, they helped me rearrange furniture to make space for what was coming. We pushed the couch against the wall, cleared the smaller bedroom. Ellie knew someone selling a crib. Samira's cousin had baby clothes. "Why are you helping me?" I asked as we collapsed, exhausted and dusty. "Because," Ellie said simply, "someone should have helped us." Week 30 arrived with February storms that turned Ashport into an island. Rain hammered the cabin roof as I paced, one hand supporting my enormous belly, the other gripping my phone. The contractions had started at dawn. Too early, too fast. "Roads washed out at Miller's Bridge," Dottie informed me when I called the store, desperate. "Emergency services can't get through till it clears." Another contraction doubled me over. The triplets tumbled inside me, agitated by my fear. I crawled to the porch, rain soaking through my robe, and screamed into the storm. That's when I saw him, a figure emerging from the tree line, tall and broad-shouldered under a rain slicker. My neighbor, the veterinarian I'd only glimpsed at distance. Dr. Miles Quinton, according to Dottie, who'd added, "Lost his wife and baby girl 3 years back, keeps to himself now." I heard screaming. His voice was gravel and concern. Water dripped from his dark beard. "You okay?" "I'm in labor. 30 weeks. Triplets." Another contraction stole my breath. Can't get to hospital. His expression shifted. Professional, assessing. I've got an aluminum boat. River's high, but navigable. 20 minutes to the county hospital if we go now. I didn't question why a veterinarian had an emergency boat. Didn't care. He helped me inside, threw blankets and my hospital bag into a waterproof container. The contractions were 3 minutes apart by the time he carried me to his truck. The boat launch was chaos. Brown water rushing past, debris spinning in the current. Miles loaded me in, steady despite the rocking, and started the motor. "Hold on," he shouted over the rain. I gripped the sides, feeling like I might split apart. The river was a living thing, angry and swollen. Miles navigated like he'd been born to it, dodging logs and reading currents I couldn't see. His face was stone, concentrated, competent. "Tell me their names," he called out. "Helps to focus on something else." "No names yet." I gasped through another contraction. Scared to name them. What if... They'll be fine. Not a platitude, but a statement. "You're strong. They're strong. Tell me what you'll call them." "Rowan," I breathed. "For the boy who's been kicking my ribs since week 12. Lyra for my wild girl. She never stops moving. And Finn..." I touched the quiet spot low on my belly. "Finn's my gentle one." The hospital materialized through rain, lights blazing, staff waiting with a gurney. Miles had radioed ahead. They whisked me away, his steady presence replaced by medical efficiency. Everything blurred. Monitors, IVs, worried faces. Dr. Martinez had been wrong. I needed an emergency cesarean. The anesthesia made the world soft as they pulled my babies into the harsh light. Rowan came first, screaming his displeasure. Then Lyra, feisty even at 3 pounds. But Finn... "He's not breathing," someone said. Time stopped. I watched them work on his tiny body, so still, so blue. 30 seconds, 45, a minute. "Please," I whispered. "Please." At 63 seconds, Finn gasped, the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. They let me see them briefly, 3 impossibly small humans in incubators. Rowan with his father's stubborn chin, Lyra already trying to escape her monitors. Finn, smallest but finally breathing, his chest rising and falling like a promise. I woke later to find Miles in the corner chair, still in damp clothes. "You stayed?" He shrugged. "Wanted to make sure you all made it." A pause. "They're beautiful, fighters like their mom. You saved us. You saved yourselves. I just drove the boat." He stood, awkward now without emergency to guide him. "I'll check in tomorrow, if that's okay." I nodded, too tired to examine why this gruff stranger's presence felt like safety. He did check. Every day for 2 weeks while we lived in the NICU. Brought coffee that wasn't hospital swill. Sat quietly while I pumped milk for babies too small to nurse. Told me about his veterinary practice, how animals were simpler than people. They didn't pretend not to be broken. "Neither do I said, watching Finn's oxygen levels improve. "Not anymore." Ellie, Samira, and Gina rotated visits, bringing the outside world in small doses. They'd set up a nursery at the cabin. 3 cribs, a changing station, more tiny clothes than triplets could ever wear. "You're not alone," Ellie reminded me when I cried over the medical bills. "We've got you." But it was Miles who drove us home when they finally released us, who helped carry 3 car seats into the cabin I'd fled to in despair and was returning to with hope. 2 years passed in a blur of bottles, diapers, and 3 a.m. feedings. The cabin walls absorbed our chaos. Rowan's determined crawling, Lyra's escape artist phases, Finn's quiet observations of his wild siblings. I learned to function on 4 hours of sleep, to make formula with my eyes closed, to distinguish hungry cries from tired ones. My blog had found its audience. Ashes to Home drew thousands of women navigating their own rebuilding. They sent messages at all hours. My husband just told me about his affair. I'm pregnant and alone. How do you start over at 40? One night, after wrestling 3 toddlers into bed, I sat with my laptop and an idea that wouldn't leave me alone. What if rebuilding didn't have to be solitary? What if we created actual space for women to restart? I pitched it to my Thursday group over coffee and exhaustion. A physical place, I explained, where women could live temporarily while getting back on their feet. Learn skills, find support, remember who they are beyond the wreckage. Like a shelter? Gina asked. No, a home. A place to rebuild from foundation up, literally and figuratively. Samira leaned forward. My settlement money's just sitting there. I could invest. I know construction, Ellie added. Learned during my divorce, had to fix everything my ex let rot. Within 6 months, we'd purchased an old Victorian on Ashport's main street. 5 bedrooms, solid bones, decades of neglect. Perfect for resurrection. The whole town pitched in. Ruth donated paint, Dottie organized fundraisers, Miles showed up with his truck and tools every weekend. Don't you have animals to tend? I asked one Saturday, finding him replacing porch boards while my boys handed him nails with toddler seriousness. Weekends are quiet. He accepted a bent nail from Finn with grave thanks. Besides, this matters. Opening day, we had 3 residents. Sarah, escaping financial abuse. Monica, aged out of foster care and pregnant. Becca, whose husband's gambling left her homeless. They moved into rooms we'd painted sunshine yellow, furnished with donated dignity. The model was simple. 6 months residence, job training, childcare, counseling. Everyone contributed. Cooking, cleaning, caring for the vegetable garden Samira insisted on. We taught what we'd learned through bruises. Budgeting, boundaries, believing in tomorrow. Then the envelope arrived. No return address, Portland postmark. Inside, a cashier's check for $100,000 and a note. For the women rebuilding, from someone who understands, a friend. Miles helped me frame it. The note, not the check. That went straight to buying the empty lot next door. Any idea who? He asked, watching me trace the handwriting. None, but something nagged. Familiar loops in the letters, a particular way of crossing T's. The mystery resolved 2 months later when Jolie Tran appeared at my door. Designer clothes couldn't hide her exhaustion or the bruise yellowing on her wrist. He left me too, she said simply. For someone younger, funnier, less complicated. She laughed, brittle. I'm 27 and already traded in. I should have felt vindication. Instead, I saw myself. Another woman discovering that promises meant nothing to men who viewed love as upgradable. My mother sent the money, she continued. She knew about you, about this place. Said you'd understand. Your mother? She left my father when I was 15. Started over with nothing. Built a restaurant empire from one food truck. Jolie met my eyes. She said rebuilding is genetic, that I'd inherited it from her. That maybe I could learn it from you. I made her tea, peppermint, though morning sickness was long past. We sat while my children napped, 2 women on opposite sides of the same story. I won't apologize for Darren, she said. I was young and stupid and thought I was special. We all think we're special, until we're not. I studied her, really looked. Saw the girl who'd organized my foundation events with precision, who'd charmed donors and remembered birthdays. You were good at your job. I was good at being what he wanted. I don't know who I am without that. Thunder rumbled outside. Lyra would wake soon, afraid. But this moment mattered. Stay, I said. Not as penance, as possibility. We need someone who understands nonprofit management. The real kind, not the charity performance art we did in Miami. She stayed, moved into the Victorian, traded Louboutins for work boots. Taught residents grant writing while learning to tile bathrooms. Found herself in the spaces between who she'd been and who she might become. Rebuild House grew. The second building, then a third, a daycare center, job placement program. Partnerships with local businesses who learned that women restarting were often the most dedicated workers. They knew what losing everything cost. 5 years is long enough to believe you've escaped your past. Long enough for 3 babies to become kindergarteners with distinct personalities. Rowan the protector, Lyra the force of nature, Finn the gentle soul who noticed everything. Long enough for Rebuild House to become a nationally recognized model, earning invitations to speak at conferences I'd once only dreamed of attending. The invitation to New York arrived in spring. The National Coalition for Family Services wanted me to present our community-based recovery model. Prestigious, important. In the same hotel where Darren's tech company held their annual investor meeting. You don't have to go, Miles said, reading my face over dinner. He'd become fixture in our lives: Sunday dinners, emergency childcare. The quiet presence who fixed broken things without being asked. Yes, I do. I watched Finn carefully separate his peas from his carrots, Darren's methodical nature in miniature. Running stops working eventually. We prepared for weeks. The children practiced their surprise, a song they'd written about home and hearts and starting over. Lyra choreographed elaborate hand motions. Rowan made sure everyone knew their parts. Finn composed a ukulele accompaniment, his small fingers precise on the strings. New York hit like a slap of expensive perfume. We stayed in a modest hotel 10 blocks from the conference venue, the children wide-eyed at buildings that scraped sky. I dressed them in their best, not designer, but clean and pressed and proud. The ballroom was exactly what I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, corporate speak, people who understood poverty as spreadsheet data. I presented our model, showed slides of women rebuilding their lives with their own hands. Polite applause, polite questions. Then my children took the stage. They sang with the unself-conscious joy of 5-year-olds, Lyra twirling in her yellow dress, Rowan standing protective beside Finn. Their voices rose clear and true. Home is where the broken hearts learn to beat again. I saw him before he saw me. Darren, older now, silver threading his temples, still handsome in his $2,000 suit. Beside him, a woman who wasn't Jolie, younger, blonder, already checking her phone. But his eyes were locked on Rowan, on the stubborn chin, the green eyes, the gesture, pure Darren, of pushing hair back when concentrating. Recognition dawned like horror across his face. The children finished to genuine applause. I gathered them, praising their performance, promising ice cream, pretending I hadn't seen their father frozen in the 3rd row. He cornered us at the coat check. Vivian, his voice cracked. Are they mine? I pulled Finn closer. Yes, you know what I mean. His new girlfriend had vanished, probably sensing drama. That boy, Rowan, we're late for dinner. Vivian, please. He looked smaller than memory, desperate. They're my children, too. I have rights. You have nothing. My voice stayed level, though my hands shook. You chose nothing. You chose Jolie, then whoever came after. You chose easy over everything we built. I made a mistake, No, you made a choice. Live with it. But Lyra, my bold girl, tugged his jacket. Are you my daddy? The words I'd dreaded for 5 years. Miles had warned me. Children always know when puzzle pieces are missing. Darren knelt, tears starting. I think I might be. I wanted to run, to grab my babies and disappear again. But Finn stepped forward, studied Darren with those solemn eyes. We already have people who love us, he said quietly. Do you love us? Darren faltered. I want to. Wanting isn't loving, Rowan interrupted, protective arm around Finn. Mr. Miles says loving means showing up, every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, Lyra added. I watched Darren absorb their words, the wisdom of children raised by a village of broken, healing women. Saw him realize what he'd missed, what he'd traded for temporary comfort. I could learn, he said finally, if you'd let me. I looked at my children, really looked. Saw strength I'd helped build, hearts big enough to consider forgiveness. They deserved the choice I'd taken from them in fear and hurt. If you want to know them, I said slowly, you start from 0, like I did, like we all did. You earn the right to be in their lives. How? Move to Ashport, volunteer at Rebuild House. Show up, keep showing up. Prove you're more than promises and good intentions. He straightened, something like hope flickering. I'll think about it. You do that. I herded my children toward the door. We have a plane to catch. He showed up 3 weeks later. Not the Darren I'd known. No designer suit, no Tesla, no swagger. Just a man with a duffel bag at the Ashport bus station, rain already soaking through his inadequate jacket. You came, I said, genuinely surprised. You said start from 0. He looked around the small town that was nothing like Miami's Gleam. This feels like 0. I'd arranged everything through Jolie, who ran Rebuild House's operations now with surprising grace. He'd stay in our men's shelter. Yes, we'd expanded, and work maintenance. No special treatment. No shortcuts to my children's hearts. Ground rules, I said as we drove. You're Mr. Darren, unless they choose otherwise. You work the same hours as other volunteers. You respect our routines. And if you hurt them, if you make them promises you can't keep, you leave. Forever. Understood. The children reacted differently. Lyra, curious and bold, peppered him with questions. Rowan stayed suspicious, protective. Finn watched from behind his ukulele, processing silently. Miles handled it better than expected. Man wants to know his kids, he said, helping me stress bake at midnight. Can't fault that. You're too understanding. No. He shaped dough with practiced hands. I'm someone who'd give anything for one more day with Emma. Don't make your children pay for adult mistakes. Darren struggled. Watched him learn to repair leaky faucets, serve meals at the shelter, sit through support groups where men discussed their failures. His hands, soft from years of typing, blistered. His back ached. His pride took daily beatings. But he showed up, every morning, 6 a.m., helping prep breakfast for 30 residents. Afternoons maintaining buildings that fought Pacific Northwest weather. Evenings, he'd linger near the playground, watching the triplets from respectful distance. Why doesn't he push? Ellie asked one Thursday. Most men would demand time, threaten court. Because, Samira observed, he's finally learning what love costs. The breakthrough came during summer camp. Rebuild House's partnership with local farms, teaching children where food originated. Lyra had volunteered Darren for the messiest job, mucking goat stalls. I arrived to find him knee-deep in straw, and worse, Lyra instructing him with 5-year-old authority. You're doing it wrong, she announced. Mr. Miles says you gotta respect the goat's space. They're not things. They're beings with feelings. Like people? Darren asked, catching my eye. Exactly like people. She handed him a pitchfork. You can't just decide you want them to like you. You gotta earn it. With consistency. That means showing up even when it's stinky. He laughed. Real unguarded. Your mom teach you that? Everyone taught me that. That's how Rebuild House works. We all show up for each other. Later, I found him sitting outside the barn, tears cutting through dirt on his face. I missed everything, he said. First words, first steps, teaching them to tie shoes and ride bikes. I missed it all for what? For women who didn't even know my middle name? Yes, I said simply. You did. I don't know how to fix it. You don't fix it. You build something new. One day, one gesture, one kept promise at a time. He nodded, wiping his face. Finn told me yesterday that he likes how I read stories. Different voices for each character. He notices everything. Like you. He stood, brushing off hay. I was an idiot, Vivian. I had everything. A brilliant wife, a real partner. I threw it away because I was bored. Because Jolie made me feel 25 again. I don't need apologies, Darren. They need consistency. The test came in September. A tech conference in San Francisco, big opportunity, potential investors for a startup. The old Darren would have gone without question. Instead, he found me in the garden where I grew therapy flowers, cosmos and zinnias, resilient beauties. There's a conference, he started, but it's during Rowan's soccer tournament, the one where parents run drills with kids. I kept weeding, letting him work it out. I'm staying, he decided. Conferences happen quarterly. Rowan only gets one first tournament. That weekend, I watched him run beside our son, slower now, humble but present. Rowan scored his first goal and looked immediately for Darren's approval. Found it, smiled like sunrise. You're doing good, Miles told him afterward, generous as always. Kids know when you mean it. I'm trying to deserve them, Darren said. All of them, even the family they've already built. The 5th Rebuild House opened on a December morning, snow dusting the mountains like hope. 5 buildings now. Transitional housing, education center, childcare, job training, and this newest addition. A community center where healing happened in groups. I stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of faces. Residents, graduates, volunteers, townsfolk who'd embraced our mission. My children sat in the front row, 8 years old now, distinct personalities shining. Rowan had Darren's intensity tempered by compassion. Lyra combined her father's charm with my determination. Finn possessed a gentle wisdom that came from somewhere deeper than either of us. 8 years ago, I began. I arrived in Ashport with nothing but hurt and 3 heartbeats I couldn't yet feel. I thought I was running away. Instead, I was running toward something I couldn't imagine. A life built on truth instead of appearance. Applause rippled through the crowd. I found Miles in the third row, steady as always. Darren sat with the children, helping Finn tune his ukulele for their performance. Not the family I'd planned, but the one we'd earned. Rebuild House isn't about erasing the past, I continued. It's about composting it, taking what broke us and growing something beautiful. Every woman who walks through our doors brings her own ashes. Together, we tend the garden that grows. The children took the stage, taller now, but still radiating joy. They'd written a new song, Lyra explained, about families that don't look like pictures in books. As they sang, I watched the audience. Jolie in the second row, running our development department with brilliance she'd found beneath the performance. Sarah, our first resident, now managing the job training program. Gina, Ellie, Samira, my Thursday night sisters who'd held me while I learned to stand alone. "Mom," Rowan called from the stage, "come sing with us." I joined them, letting Lyra position me just so. We sang together, my uncertain alto mixing with their clear voices. Finn played his ukulele with serious concentration. Darren watched from his seat, tears unchecked. Afterward, setting up for the community dinner, Rowan approached me with something in his hands. A painted canvas, clearly a group effort. "We made this in art class," he said. "It's our family." The painting showed our cabin, surrounded by figures. Me in the center, children clustered close. Miles on one side, Darren on the other, but also Ellie, Samira, Gina, Jolie, Ruth, Dottie, everyone who'd helped us heal. Even the goats from camp made an appearance. "It's beautiful," I said, throat tight. "But why is everyone at our house?" "Because," Finn said simply, "home is where everyone you love can come back to." That evening, as snow fell soft outside, we gathered in the main room. 5 houses full of women rebuilding, children learning that broken didn't mean worthless, volunteers understanding that service meant solidarity. Darren helped serve dinner, comfortable now in work boots and flannel. Miles fixed the heater that always chose December to protest. My children darted between tables, at home everywhere, because everywhere had helped raise them. "You did this," Mom said, visiting for the opening. She'd softened over the years, watched her daughter transform heartbreak into hope. "You built this from nothing." "No," I corrected. "We built this from everything. Every shattered piece, every tear, every woman who refused to let her story end with leaving." Later, after the crowd dispersed and children slept, I stood on the porch where Darren had once told me about finding true love elsewhere. The irony wasn't lost. He'd been right. I had found true love, just not where either of us expected. True love was Rowan defending a younger child at school, Lyra organizing fundraisers with 5-year-old determination, Finn's quiet hugs when he sensed someone's sadness. It was Miles showing up without being asked, Jolie choosing growth over bitterness, Darren learning that father was a verb, not a noun. It was Rebuild House. Proof that sometimes the most beautiful homes rise from ashes, that broken people can create unbreakable communities, that starting over isn't failure but the bravest kind of beginning. "Ready?" Miles asked, appearing with hot chocolate. Always checking, never pushing. "For what?" "Whatever comes next." He handed me the mug, our fingers brushing. "The kids want to know if Mr. Darren can stay for Christmas morning, first time they've asked." I smiled, tasting chocolate and possibility. "Tell them yes. Families whoever shows up and keeps showing up. Whoever helps you rebuild when you're ash and stays to see what grows." Snow fell on Rebuild House, on all of us who'd learned that home wasn't about perfect. It was about return. Always, eventually, choosing to return.